about Larry being a liar and all the stuff that was going on, right? They were going to bring all their proof. So I thought it would be interesting. So I decided to listen in. And the more that I listened, the crazier and more demented that they sounded. And I thought the more I listened to it, because it's an hour and a half long, the more I listened to the rantings of everybody, I didn't think that it could get any worse. I didn't think they could make themselves look any worse or any more stupid. But they even surprised me because, boy, oh boy, the stuff that we are going to be talking about and sharing tonight is not us just making stuff up, getting back at anybody. We're literally going to utilize their own words to prove how ridiculous it is.
And of course, that is always the best way to do it, is to use first. Somebody asked me one time about, you don't worry about people using your own words against you. I said, well, trust me, there's a few million of them out there now. So, I mean, when you're on air as much as we are, you make yourself vulnerable because there is a lot of material out there. And we've talked about a lot of things. And I do a lot of politics as well. So, I do a lot of ufology and paranormal. But I do, so anywhere in there, someone can find fault, which is fine. I knew getting into this field or getting into radio, actually, that there was going to be a lot of this. It's just kind of weird when you see these kind of attacks because, Gary's been around for a while. Oh, good looking man, by the way. I see you up there. It's nice to see you logged in. But, just I don't even know why they're attacking him personally. You want to attack Larry. Okay, Larry's a big boy. I've been knowing Larry enough years to know that he can hold his own. So go ahead, attack him, smack him. He might get PO'd at you. Y'all might go and have some beers. Whatever. That's fine. But everybody else who's looking at this from a different view, because everyone in this group tonight looks at this from a different point of view. And, we're looking at this and we could all simply go, yeah, he's a liar. But that's not what I got out of this. What I got out of this, frankly, after talking to him and all, is frankly, I really think I need to spend some time and put him under hypnosis and regressing. But I think there's something there more than he realizes. And I think it's one of the things that causes him to have some other issues, which, by the way, we've talked about with other people who've experienced as a contactees and all, sometimes have other, issues dealing with certain things in life. So, and those subsets are there.
There's Gary.
Yeah. Oh, you see him up there, huh?
Yeah.
You see, the other one over here is hiding out on us, man. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm scared. I know she don't want to run off the viewers. I understand.
That's right. That's right.
Whatever. But anyway, get back to what we're talking about. I just feel like when you attack the people doing the research, then it kind of just proves that you're just in it to hurt somebody and you're not in it for the truth, because that's what we're all looking for. And when you make us defend people because we're looking for the truth, of course you're going to get attacked. You can't just go around attacking people and then say, oh no, this is how it's going to be, and we're going to attack you nonstop and think no one's going to say anything back. I've been doing radio for a long time. I'll give anybody equal airtime, even people who don't like me. I've been known to let people come on the network who just don't like me. And you can ask some of the new hosts, some of the former hosts. I've let hosts go at it that didn't like each other until they worked it out. I have no problem giving anyone equal airtime. I will even give you airtime as a moderator and not as a judge or not as a member of the conversation. But still, no one wants to take up on that. So you got to go hide in some dark corner with like 3 people and talk smack about someone. So I guess in retrospect, you're really kind of scared because you're talking about it behind their backs where unless you send it to them, they're not going to find out about it. So
well, it's kind of dumb nowadays, though, because as we're going to hear tonight through these audio clips, it does no good to block anybody because so many of us have mutual friends, and the ones that might not even like us or we think that they like it are friends with the other person, they'll still screenshot what you put up on your page and send it to them. There's no way getting around it. It's either you just got to shut up and stop talking about it and hopefully eventually they die away, or you just put up whatever you want in response and you just keep it going. And hey, she doesn't realize is every time that she talks about me, every time that she puts the show up, every time she does it, it just gives me more attention, just like it gives Larry. She talks about all of this attention that he gets, and nobody listens to her and all of this kind of stuff, but she's giving him all the attention. I mean,
Absolutely.
I have never seen somebody, well, no, I'm going to take that back. I have known a few people that are quite obsessive as well. But, the thing is it's not just Larry. It's Larry. And then she attacked me because I did the show. And then she attacked Joe because Joe wasn't going to take me off the network and backed me up. And then, of course, now we got to go after Gary because, Gary's not going to, flip sides and listen to all the craziness that they're spewing. And, and then it ends up being Gary's wife. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Oh, and let's not forget the police officer. So one of the police officers that Sasha deals with, and we're going to hear that tonight too. And oh my gosh, that's like the icing on the cake. I couldn't even believe that this woman actually played that on live air as evidence, because I just thought, oh, you just gave me, the royal jewel, because it just shows that she is so crazed by this that anybody who will not agree with her or will not see it from her view, she is going to attack.
That you've hit the nail on the head there, Christina. That's exactly what it's about. I mean, in a civilized society, not everybody is always going to agree with each other. But so what we do, we politely agree to disagree. That's
Absolutely.
how we move forward. And we respect each other, and we can, like politics and religion, that's an area that provokes strong feelings, and that's one area where generally people will say, well, I don't agree with your views, but we'll agree to move on, and we respect each other and we move on. Unfortunately, with these people, they just can't do that. They have to be right, and when you disagree with them and say, look, let's move on and try to be reasonable, they won't allow you to be reasonable because their view has to be right. And that's when the attacks begin, because you're disagreeing with their viewpoint. At that point there is no further point in any conversation or proper dialogue, because these people, you can't have a dialogue with it because it's not reasonable. They don't act like reasonable people. They condemn, they attack those that disagree.
Oh, I completely agree. And that's exactly, what they have been doing. And again, the list of people that, are on this, and then it's always turned around where she's the victim. They're attacking.
Well, she's very clever. She's very clever. And she will, if you've actually kind of studied what she says over a period of time, like I have, you can see the ploys that she does on a regular basis. When she's feeling a bit down, she will then say, oh, well, Larry wants me dead and people want me dead. There's no evidence for this, but people want her dead. So then some poor unsuspecting person on Facebook will see this comment and will naturally feel sorry for her, so that she will, like a spider's web, draw them in, be very charming and be very nice, and they will naturally think, oh, that's terrible, blah, blah, blah. But they don't realize that they're being played and that this is a regular tactic that she uses.
Right. And I've seen that. And the thing that's so interesting is that, again, if you look at her pages, because I mean, that's why I don't even block people, because it's like, what's the point? Again, it's like there's always somebody that will find a way to get it. And to be honest, I don't have anything that I'm going to say that I need to hide from anybody. Like, if this is how I feel, this is what I'm going to put up. And if you like it, you like it. If not, I may call somebody out in it. I might not. But, it's funny how when people have a guilty conscience and you put up a post about something, they automatically assume it must be about them.
Oh, absolutely. But there is a sad element to this that really is quite concerning, is that a lot of people who are, shall I say, within the UFO community, who do have some influence, i.e. they have their own shows, TV, they're well-known researchers. Sadly, most of the people I find within the field who could have influence to put a stop to all of this and say this is unacceptable. A lot of them do not say anything. And I've been told, actually, personally and privately, that many of them don't want to get involved. And the real reason is because they're frightened of being targets of the abuse themselves. And that is pretty worrying.
Well, it is. And then, you know, a lot of these people don't want to put their names up. They don't want to say anything. I notice even in Peter's case, I see he's keeping as much distance from this as he can. Because this is a dangerous thing to take sides in. I mean, I wasn't on a side. I was just doing radio, listening to Sasha and Larry, lollygagging along, minding my own business.
But for me, it's not really about even taking sides. What I have made a big thing about, especially in the UK, is that if people are supposedly serious researchers, then they have to treat people with respect. And unfortunately, these people don't treat anybody with respect who disagrees with them. And that's why I say that they're not real researchers. And there has to be certain standards.
Rule number researchers. One is what you said earlier. You have to agree to disagree. You know, in early days when I first started doing radio back 20 years ago, it's one of the things we used to preach all the time. There's no way you can appease everybody. There's going to be people you just don't agree with. You know, I got a lot of friends in the field, and frankly, I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but I'm still friends with them. I can respect their opinion, and I will tell them I respect their research, but I don't believe it. They'll spend the next 2 hours trying to convince me, but still, you know, we're friends, and we can talk like that. But
at least
people are easily offended.
Yeah, but at least that way you are able to maintain friendships and move on and have good debates.
Well, that's why I was surprised when Sasha just started attacking me out of the blue. I mean, because over the years, you know, Sasha's had issues. She's talked to me about a lot of different things. She's had problems, and we've talked to her a lot, which I'm not going to, you know, tell all the world about. But still, I mean, you know, and when I seen, you know, what she posted on her site on Facebook, I was like, wow, what a bitch. I'm thinking, you know, why would you attack me like that? For no reason. And I was just I was like, because, and then I get this long evolved letter about, well, you got to fire Christina George, or our friendships, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, first off, I got a rule on the network. It's one of the reasons my hosts do as well as they do is because I don't tell them squat about who they can have on or how they can talk to them, as long as they stay within the guidelines of the network and what if we happen to be live on FM, the regulations. They can talk about whatever they want, but whoever they want. I'm not going to start policing them. I like a lot of different people on the network. And look, if we can all get along with each other on this network, that should prove something to y'all. Because between the differences in politics and ethnic groups and everything else, we get along. We can argue and still be friends afterwards, and it should be a lesson for everybody else. But still, like when Sasha attacked me, it was kind of a right field. If she'd attacked somebody else, you know, that ran her off, I could understand. But attacking me is just like.
Can I look? I know.
No, go ahead, get in there.
As I understand, you've known her for a long time, many years.
A long time, yeah, many years.
Okay, now prior.
Held her hand, crying at night over abductions. Yes, most definitely. Okay, I'm sorry.
And that's fine. But what I'm saying is, you knew her for a long time when she, prior to 2015, when for years she was an absolute avid, almost, obsessed with Larry Warren in the positive sense. She was a supporter for years and years. And so that's how you got to know her. Now, I'm interested to know your thoughts on why she flipped to this being a number one fan to number one hater who is obsessed with destroying Larry Warren.
The very first thing I thought, and I asked both of them this, I asked this too. I said, well, y'all having an affair. I said, I know Larry was shacking up at your house. I said, did something happen? Did y'all, have a little fling and somebody get their feelings hurt? Because for me, it was such an unreal thing. And that's what kept getting me in trouble with her, because I kept saying, well, I don't understand why you went from, Joe, do this, push, can we do some shows, blah, blah, to I hate this guy beyond belief. Those kind of things don't make any sense to me, unless she was turned by one of the UK agencies or something, because they know Rendlesham's getting more popular lately. But I really don't know. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. But I'm beginning to wonder now if something didn't happen. Because, first we said, well, maybe, she got cut out of some kind of deal with Larry. But I'm thinking more and more, especially after what we were talking about on these clips we're going to play earlier, if she might not have been flipped. You know, they might have just came and took her one night. You know, MILABs are pretty regular all around the planet. She might have been flipped. She may be disinformation queen now. I mean, come on, she's saying Rendlesham's a disinformation thing. I don't even know what to think about the woman anymore. I mean, she does sound like that something went off, that, you know, something snapped. What she sounds like to me is, in the old days, and even in today, I shouldn't say the old days, but we get these contactees or abductees who for some reason flipped. There's a very famous abductee of color, I'm not going to say their name, that one day out of the blue, who was a devout abductee, just flipped out one day and said, okay, I'm not doing anything with this. I don't even want to hear it anymore. And they went on their way. But I've seen other ones flip and just start attacking the field nonstop. And that seems to be what's going on here. This seems to be one of these incidents. It's now, because, you know, I thought it was a lot of other things now, but now we've been having these conversations and some of the new information that's coming out, I'm really beginning to wonder if, you know, they knew that they might be this upcoming film, or some other stuff might be coming, or maybe they're just worried in general. Rendlesham was gaining too much steam, and they didn't want it to go there. And being that she was like the #1 advocate for Larry Warren, who else would you want to flip? It's not going to do any good to flip any of us.
Yeah, it's an interesting take.
I'm just saying. I mean, by the way, before anybody writes to any of us tonight, it's just a hypothesis. Okay, I really don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I agree with you.
Money or drugs.
It doesn't make sense to me either. And I've asked Larry the same thing, and he says no. But it's such an extreme change in her behavior. It's pretty weird.
And then to reach out the way she's attacking, so she starts attacking this one, that one, and the other one, and then why would you even go after someone's spouse, which, you know, is just ignorant, especially anybody who's not really being involved in this or saying anything about it. You know, that's just making it more personal than it needs to be. That's wanting to be hated on. I don't even know what that's about.
You know, the thing on that, they're flip-flopping, okay? Right. Because, you know, it started out where, you know, this whole thing came about where something was said and it was assumed that they were saying it about Lynn. And I don't think that they had any idea the backlash it was going to create.
I agree.
That's where it kind of all changed, right? Because, again, they're all, you know, palling around. Now, mind you, they all troll Gary's page. They all troll Tino's page. They troll everybody's page, or they have fake accounts. I know Sasha has like 3 different accounts because she's messaged me and blocked me on, I think, at least 3. So there's all these different people who are trolling the pages. Now, if I'm correct, Gary, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn actually was just looking at, you know, yeah, she was keeping up on what was being, you know, said or whatever, and watching what was going down. She wasn't commenting on anything or whatever. No. But David Young made this, you know, big revelation, I guess, that she was trolling the pages. So just so that everybody knew, right? Yep. And so it ended up that a comment was made. Oh, and this is kind of funny because I did put the Fab 4, and I guess it's no longer the Fab 4, it's the Fab 3 now because they turned on one of their other members as well. So of their team.
Dirty
go figure. Dogs. Yeah, go figure. James Welsh is no longer. He was one of the spearheaders with Sasha, and he went on the post and said, F off, you skanky whore, or something like that. And so everybody, it was in the comments below, them going back and forth. And we're going to play this clip because Sasha says,
well, just before you play the clip, let me put it in the context, because it was actually my wife Lynn, like you say, who was monitoring the pages. I don't monitor their pages. But she does it to kind of like watch out for me. Right now, so she don't make comments, she just watches and whatever. But she came across the comment, and because of the way it was said, thought it meant to her. And basically, when she told me, I said, well, that's terrible. I'm going to put this out. And so I put it out, and it created, I think, a big backlash against them. Two of them, Sasha Christie and David Young, and I think James also, all messaged Lynn to say, oh, it wasn't aimed at you, as if to say, oh, that's okay. It was aimed at Christina George.
Right.
Oh, that's
I don't
okay
even know how
then.
I got in there.
That's okay then. But to this day, two of the three said in private messages, well, I can see where you thought, why she thought it could relate to her, which is a play on words. Lynn still maintains that it was meant for her because they talk about a wife in relation to wife. And I don't know, Christina, whether you are married or not.
No, I'm not. Very
That's
single.
what I thought. So whose wife they're talking about? My wife, clearly. So to me, it was directed at Lynn, but it was an own goal, and they shouldn't have said it. And then the interesting thing as well is, and I don't actually know the answer to this, is how long that post was up before I then picked up on it, or Lynn picked up on it, told me, and then I put it out there. Because if it had not have been picked up by Lynn, it would have probably gone under the radar, and they would have not excommunicated James Welsh and tried to say, oh, that's unacceptable behaviour. It was only because Lynn told me, and then I said, no, that's unacceptable, I'm going to put it out, and then the flack started,
Right.
that it came out. But I suspect that if Lynn hadn't have brought it to my attention, they'd have just carried on as if nothing had happened. And it's all right to call people skanky whores, whoever it's directed at, when in reality they were forced to take some kind of action and excommunicate James Welsh and say that was unacceptable. But that was a joke in itself, because if you've ever read some of the posts that Sasha Christie puts out, like I have over a long period of time, she has said far, far worse things. So it's a bit, in the UK, we use the phrase calling the kettle black. It's a bit of a cheek to say, oh, that's terrible, that what you said there, James. But on the other hand, she has said 10 times worse. Far more explicit.
Yeah.
You know
she calls me the C word every chance she can get.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that word before. I'm sorry.
You know, I'm just saying it doesn't. I mean, I think it's kind of funny everything that oh, there he is.
Greg, we're since you're on the outside here tonight, Greg. It's like, what the hell have I got myself into? First off, question for you: what do you think about Rendlesham? Quick, sum it up, 3-4 minutes.
What for me?
No, Greg, where'd you go?
All right, where's Greg? I can't see Greg.
No, he's out.
I'm in here. You know, I think there's a lot of legitimacy to some of the statements that have been made by some people about what happened with Rendlesham. One of my earlier interviews with Voice of the People Radio was actually with Chris, who goes by the performance name Janice, as a magician, who put together a soundtrack for some video productions and stuff on Rendlesham. So I've been interested in the topic for a long time. And it's just that over the last few years, I think what we've seen is some people having their previous testimony called on the carpet as whether or not what they said is legitimate. And when I was asked by Joe, I think it's been a month and a half or so ago, Joe, I actually missed the invitation to come on with Larry Warren. So kind of had some other questions about things that you can't ask unless you're on the show with the guy that need to be put to bed. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're kind of in this sticky situation because you then have other people saying things and then the parties concerned don't have the opportunity, or don't take the opportunity, I should say, to come defend themselves on the air. I hope that makes some sense. But, you know, everything I've heard about the Rendlesham Forest incident from people who were actually there seems to lend itself to a legitimate sighting, even if they can't pin it down with physical evidence. But given the fact that it was on an RAF base, or very close to said base, you know, how do you expect to get your hands on the physical evidence?
Right.
Well, obviously somebody who's based in the UK and who's been to Rendlesham Forest many times and met a lot of the witnesses, it's a world-class case, absolutely up there with the Roswells. And in my eyes, probably a better case, because how often do you have multiple nights of UFO activity at or near a nuclear weapons strike base involving, you know, people who were trained to record evidence because they were security police specialists and law enforcement specialists. And we're not just talking one incident. We're probably, if you break it down, we're talking 10, 12 UFO incidents over a number of days. Unfortunately, where the problem comes is that the people that are kind of the well-known witnesses have not brought everybody together. They've effectively began attacking each other, and that is not how it should be. There are a lot of the people who are prominent have made inconsistent remarks over the years, which need clarifying. But there is a difference between clarifying something and attacking somebody. And that's the problem. I've always said that Holt, when he retired, should have, as a senior officer who saw multiple UFOs, he should have brought everybody together and said, look, I was there, I was a part of this. However peripheral your part was, however big part it was, we're all in this together. Let's stop the bickering. We work together as one unit to move the case forward and try to get more people to come forward. Well, the opposite has happened. Different factions have broken out, and unfortunately, it's made it extremely difficult, which is a real shame.
Well, do you think, Gary, do you think that maybe, you know, Larry's kind of attitude plays into that a lot, where none of the other people who experience things want to interact with him? I mean, I do see, you know, that he can say some things that are pretty out there.
He says outrageous things at times. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, because he's a crazy bastard.
And I've told him that in no uncertain terms. But do I think he was there? Absolutely. Yes, I do. Right. And the more I've got to know him, the more his recall of a lot of detail is just too much for him to be, say, as they accuse, he borrowed Adrian Bustinza's story. He gives too much information. When you look back at all the old videos of him showing people around the forest, he's very specific. And I was an advanced interviewer of suspects and witnesses in the police. He gives too much information that's not practiced, and I've seen him being bombarded with questions at conferences by lots of people, and he's very consistent. There's no thinking time. Now, you can only do that if you've got the knowledge. You'd have got found out years and years ago if you didn't have enough information and you just borrowed the story.
Right. Well, that brings us to the lie detector test, because that was another big talking point on this show that they did, was about the fact that, well, Sasha says, first of all, that there is no proof that he passed the lie detector. So they still don't believe it. But then in the same breath, she says that, but if he did pass it, he probably did, because he believes it. And so that's how he passed it. And he has read books and studied videos on YouTube, which can help you pass a polygraph test. Now, you know, you're a police officer, and so, you know, you have some experience. And I know here in the U.S., it might be different there in the U.K., but here in the U.S., you know, they try to say that the lie detector tests are not admissible in court. And for criminal cases, felony criminal cases, that is true. But they can be used in civil cases. They are used a lot by the police department to see if they're on the right track, things like that. So, how do you think that Larry is just, that good? Because Sasha also said he hypnotizes people. That was the other thing. So do he's got the hypnotizing, the MK Ultra powers, I guess, all of this. And he's able to pass not only a lie detector test, but a voice stress analysis test. So I don't know if there's a video that can teach you to pass that too. But their theory is that if you really believe it, you're going to pass it.
I might have to do a video with him on the voice stress. I might actually do a video of voice stressing, Larry. That's a good idea.
Well, that is a good idea. From my point of view, I knew virtually nothing about polygraph tests. up until the point that he took one. I was not involved in choosing the polygraph tester, who happens to be arguably Britain's most well-known and experienced polygraph tester, a lady called Patty Musicaro with her own company. And when people say that, you know, who is this woman? She's done over 2,000 tests, which is all in the public domain. She's an American. She lives in England, so she's an Anglophile, married to an English guy. But she's worked with the US police, the British police, does a lot of civil actions, etc. But she's extremely experienced. And if you think about this logically, why is somebody who is at the top of her field, arguably the most experienced woman or polygraph examiner in Britain, why is she going to put her reputation on the line and just go along and have a bit of a laugh, you know, and play along and let somebody pass? Yeah, well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to.
Right,
she's not.
right.
She is not going to risk her professional reputation just for to get this guy who's had a hard time a pass. No, that's not the case. And when the criticisms come that the details of the polygraph test have not come out, well, that's down to the director of the film. It's frustrating, but if you watch the 5-minute trailer that came out, I think on the 28th of December, there was actually Patty Musicaro on film, and her name came up, so there's nothing being hidden. But it's a part of the film, and I think it's an important part of the film. But the logical thing is, and I don't know really much about polygraph, but they obviously do, because everybody keeps telling me how easy it is to pass. Well, let me tell you, from what I saw, it's not very easy. It may have been in the past, but the 5 different pieces of kit that you're hooked up to, and the graphical charts, they're measuring the sweat and things like that. It's very, very tough. And, you know, so this is,
they have
this
ways
is a wide-ranging series of questions.
Right. They have ways to tell if you are trying to use countermeasures. I mean, there's now software that picks that up. So if you change your breathing or you do any of those things, you don't think that these people watch YouTube videos too and decide, okay, well, you're going to try to do this. We're going to make a sensor to detect that. It's, you know, it's like, again, it's not like technology of 20 years ago where you've just got the little needles and, you know, a blood pressure cuff, you know, and ask some questions. It's much more extensive than that, especially right now.
And this is the point. And really, it could be the world's leading polygraph expert could have done the test for them, and they'd still find criticism of anybody who can pass it. That's the reality. Is no matter what Larry does or says, it's going to be turned into a negative connotation.
Right, and they actually tried to dig some.
They are.
And they tried to dig up some dirt on her as well. I mean, they were trying to discredit her. And I'm like, really? I mean, again, this woman, all she did was she was hired from a documentary and paid to do what she expertise is in, which is a lie detector test. And she was given the answer, I mean, the questions to ask. And from my understanding is that, you know, a lot of questions were given to him, not just, you know, just a couple based just on one subject or another. And again, that's a big part of this movie. So I completely understand why they're not releasing just that part, because then, you know, the movie wouldn't be all put together. I do notice that on the show they were talking about how, something must be awry with the whole movie, because it was supposed to be released on the anniversary of Rendlesham. And I was like, where did they get that at? You guys said you were going to release the trailer. And the trailer was released at that time. And so there was no permanent.
Let me just clarify something there. And I know the editor will, the director of the documentary may be wondering what I'm going to say now, because he doesn't want me to say too much, because it's obviously part of the film. But I think he won't mind me saying, because I think it's important what you just said there, that this is not misconstrued. Patty Musicaro was not paid 1 penny to do that test.
Nice.
Therefore, she has no financial interest or slur that can be put against her. She
That's
did it
even better.
on a correct, and that's why I'm mentioning it, because it would be wrong to say that she was paid, and that's why I need to clarify that she did it as a because it was different, and she did it for free.
Nice.
Well,
again, that'll be coming out. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just saying, I was sitting here listening to y'all talk. When I did, I was looking for UFO Paranormal Radio on YouTube, and guess the third one that comes up is Sasha Christie, Bent Waters and Alien Abductions 5 years ago. It's a pretty popular little archive. I'm just surprised because it's one that's very fun. It just shows you how hard she was pushing this and how hard she was working for this. And if you go listen to this is just her and I talking about Bent Waters. You're going to be like, well, what the hell happened? I mean, when you listen to her on any of the archives she's done prior to last year, you just got to kind of go, what the hell happened? I mean, you really do. It's just kind of a strange little phenomenon in itself how all of this went down. I got to say, I'm still kind of weirded out just how in the old days.
Something's playing in the background, Joe.
That's my phone.
Okay.
In the old days, we'd have done some kind of intervention, like a military thing where you go in and break the program. Because I'm beginning, the more and more I listen to this, the more and more I think she's been programmed. Because if it was just one of us or just Larry, but it's like anything that touches this or even moves around Rendlesham or Larry, she feels it needs to be destroyed or stomped on or just. Okay.
Any reasonable person will think that the behavior is obsessive at the very least.
It's pretty harsh, and I don't know why, but I know we got to get into some of these clips, so I'm gonna shut up and pay more attention to what's going on here.
That's right.
We get lots of comments. For some reason, they're coming in on my messenger on my phone tonight, which is weird, but okay. Obviously, I got the wrong thing open on the damn phone. But where you want to start at?
I think we're going to go. Let me see. Well, we already really kind of talked about the whole before when we were talking to Gary about the whole comment thing about Gary's wife. It's kind of crazy because, again, even their own stories, hers and David's, don't match up. They have two different renditions of how this all transpired. I somehow get added into both of them, which there's absolutely no way that could be.
This is all your fault. I thought you knew this.
You know what? I'm starting to believe it myself because it's like I'm out of the loop, and then the next thing I know, there's a blog about me, or I've never been mentioned so many times in a radio show about somebody else than I was in this one that they did. It was ridiculous.
I think the secret recording.
Hold on, I think that's Joe's phone. He's got some crazy ringtone in the back there.
It's under control. It's not a ringtone.
I think the secret recording she made with the police officer is hugely revealing in terms of behaviour, and I think that would be a good place to play that clip because I think it's 16, 17 minutes, but it will be interesting to have a discussion about it afterwards.
Right, absolutely. All right, so Joe, let's go to 68.17, and we're going to run it to 7133.
68 points. Okay, 67, 68. Okay, it's just
cops on her line.
Yeah, freeze it. All right, guys, and remember when they're listening, they can still hear us. So, yeah. Maybe I turn off the speaker, but no, I don't want to do that either. So anyway, here we go.
Go ahead.
Let me mute this one.
Like a rash now in Liverpool. That's her. And a fact. The other two scum live in Glasgow, Scotland. Time the wheel turn, kids. These fucks need to be run out of life, out of blood. traitors to you and yours, stand up to this filth. And then underneath in a comment, he's put, unmasked Antifa folks,
I'm not hearing
get
anything
some.
either.
Wish I'd been there, I tell you.
I think you muted the wrong
When I
mute button.
reported that to the police, she was...
no, that's what I was saying. They can't. We
Chief
can't hear. Only
Inspector,
they
she
can
was
hear.
extremely
That's what I was saying earlier.
positive, but he
we
hadn't
gotta
sent
listen
it
to
to
it
me
from another source for us to
directly.
hear. I was
It
listening
wasn't
to
a
it through
direct
speaker,
threat,
but
but she did say that it was
for some reason, when we got all these
actionable
people in the
matter,
queue,
so
they don't
that I
want to
could
let us
take
listen
it
to
court,
it.
basically.
It's tried to let Christy and I listen
But
earlier.
cops
Really,
are
just
not
want,
all
every time
over me like
they
a
breathe or
rash.
even
I
made a
wish
sound,
I
I
could
just
get
cut
them
the
to
audio
even
out.
take one
All
All right, let it
statement
just
from
run
me.
to
You know,
7133 and we'll
every
just...
time I got
chill
in
here.
touch with them, they put
You back?
give me a new crime number, and then every time it went past that and that was handed to somebody, they put it with the first crime number and said that had been dealt with. It had been dealt with. Nothing had been dealt with. Nobody had talked to me about anything. They just refused to get involved in a fight between old friends on the internet. So that was basically how they viewed it the whole time. And I even had a complaint in with the Independent Police Complaints Commission, and when I got that back, it was just full of mistakes, inaccuracies, incorrect names. Oh my God, it was a total mess. I just thought, oh, I can't even be bothered with this anymore. But, you know, it was a case of, well, if he does anything to you, then we'll deal with it. But, you know, as it stands, you know, he can do all this. So I'd written to my MP before this, actually, and he got in touch with the police, and the police said, we have investigated this. There's nothing. There's nothing to look at. And they didn't even talk to me, so they didn't know anything about any of the things to do with the forgeries. They didn't know anything about any of the attacks or any of the other things that had gone on, because they just wouldn't actually take a statement. They never ever took a statement off me, not once. So that's why nothing's been done. And when I tried to tell them about the forgeries, they said that's nothing to do with us. We don't do anything like that. You have to go to National Trading Standards. So I go to National Trading Standards. They need an actual victim of a sale to do anything. So if the auction house hasn't complained, and if somebody hasn't realised that they've bought a piece of crap, then there's nothing that they can do. There's no evidence. There's no proof. There's no sale. There has to be a sale for there to be a crime. But if the person who's parted with the money is not complaining, then there's nothing they'll do. Yeah. So it's just been a complete joke. And then when Malky Smithson, when he threatened me, and the police in Bradford asked my police force to take a statement from me, because they said, this is totally actionable, we will go and have a word, we'll go pick him up, we're going to arrest him for this, but we need a statement. And so a woman came round, a police officer came round to take a statement. I thought she came in, she shouted at me for 17 minutes, and I said, "She's not going to take this statement, are you?" "No." I said, "You never had any intention of taking this, did you?" "No." And off she went. And that's, you know, and
we have that recording.
Yeah.
We have that recording. I'm going to play some of it just now.
Hiya. So can I see the messages then? Yeah. Bradford want you to take a statement from me and send them it, because they're ready to go and arrest him because he's done this before. So who's he sent stuff to? Bradford, Mick Sayer, and the first messages he sent Mick.
They should be getting it from Mick, because he sent it to Mick.
No. When you read the message, you understand why it applies to me.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the messages have been sent to Mick, so it's Mick whose evidence it is.
And he's actually been to the police.
Yeah.
So,
Bradford are happy if you just pass a statement to them, they'll go and get it.
And he said, I can give you his number and his email address.
Right,
so you can talk to him.
To read it all.
Yeah.
So he's reported it to West Yorkshire.
He's got to report it to his.
Where does Mick live then?
I only know Mick from Facebook. Right, so there you go.
So where's this being written then? I know you say the latest comment cuts from Malky Smithson.
So from his home in Keighley, which the police have got his address.
No, where's he posted it to make that make sense? So has he sent it as a message?
Yeah,
as a private message.
And originally he was posting on his own wall with these threats to us, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's going to do this and that, and can you protect your family? And now
it's not Molly. He got my address from my medical records from a friend of his that works at the NHS. And when I tried to report this to the police, he said, what if he's lying? And now he's put my address in there.
So
I know for a fact he's not lying.
So you're saying that he's got your medical records via someone who works for the NHS?
That's right.
So you need to complain to the NHS about that then?
Yeah. Well, if this is just all part of the harassment that I'm getting from these 5 people, can you protect your family? And
can I read this and then I'll put it in?
It's just going on and on now, and it seems the threats are getting worse now.
Who's James Welsh and who's Ben?
And then Jones is another person who's attacking me. James Walsh is a friend of mine.
So you reported it to Merseyside and Bradford?
Yeah, and Bradford told me to report it to you. And I said, well, they won't take it from me. And he said, tell them that all I need is a statement. And he says, and if they won't, then I'll ring them up. And he said, what we'll do is we'll go around and see him and then we'll probably lock him up. He's done this before. So there's no need to chase any IP address because I've given him the correct name and address, and that person lives there, and I was given that on Friday, so I could tell the police.
You got these printed? You've got an incoming call coming in?
I haven't because I can't get a bloody printer to work with the Wi-Fi.
What?
This is some other threats that he made.
Sorry.
This is the first I ever heard from him or knew of him. In October, saying that I was stalking him and following him and whatever. I was like, I don't know who you are. Look, who are you? I don't know you. And he's seeing that message, Nick said to me, who's this Marky Smith? And so it's obviously I'm not doing anything or talking about him. So he's threatening me because other people screenshot him. I can't see him because I've got him blocked. But when he's ranting about me, people send me it. So I've saved all these. He's going on about me screen capping all this stuff. It wasn't me. It's just Darren Cooper said I can confirm that someone. It actually says it's me. And then that he posted GBH charge sheet to say that he doesn't fuck about. And he means it.
This new one given our test.
Yeah, well, so he's put his charge sheet up there. There's another threat.
Just say don't fuck with me, you know.
And then he's gone on about me being a risk to him or his family, and he's being evaluated by the mental health team. And I've got this out to show you. My medication is for neurological condition and pain, nothing to do with mental health. So I am disabled. They've reported me for being a benefit cheat, and it's not true. I had to go for an appointment last week.
It's cost us money on cash, we didn't have it.
Yeah, so anyway, when I went to see him and I told him I took some of these screenshots and said, he's saying I'm not disabled online. This is Larry Warren, and this guy's his mouth. And so one of them two has reported me. Here he said that he got my address from his medical records, and now you can see in that message that he has got my address. So we know that that's true. And Mick has reported him to the police. But, you know, this is just Marcus, and the other guy, Ben, he's been doing the same thing.
This Marky one's the dangerous one at the moment.
Yeah.
He's threatening our family.
Yeah. And he's done it before. He's been done before for smashing people's stuff, attacking people.
And when I spoke to you yesterday, I didn't have a clue Bradford, you'd been in touch with Bradford, did I? I would have told you right away. And they just say, give us a statement, we'll go see him, you know.
See, the thing is, and this is the simplest, he's not made any contact with you. No, he hasn't. He did this and he blocked that, and he then hasn't continued to make contact with you.
In there it says, here, actually, go kill yourself. That's directed at me.
But without.
All you need to do is take a statement.
No. What we need to do is for you to listen to me, because I do this job daily, and I'm the person who knows whereabouts it fits in the law, whether or not it constitutes as harassment, and I am the person who has advice from CPS over stuff like social media when things are written about whether or not it is classed as harassment, and whether or not
actually, definition of law is classed as a hate crime, and that includes any
Why is it a hate crime?
Because they're hating on me and they're threatening my death and they're threatening to hurt my family.
Hate crimes are against
they're using my
individuals.
Okay, well, they're using my disabilities and the fact that I was depressed a couple of years ago, and the fact that in 2002 I was on a psychiatric ward for a hormonal condition because it was affecting my
But nowhere on any of this.
No.
That's why it is. So where's the evidence of that?
It's all there.
But where?
It's a group of people that are all doing it.
But where does it say that the reason why they are contacting you or aiming at you is because you have any of these conditions?
No, because it's in the insults and the continued. She needs reevaluating for mental health. In here,
but mental health isn't classed as one of the under hate crimes.
Okay, so what about threatening to put my windpipe to and spine and end my life? What's that one?
There's issues with some of this because it still doesn't fit. If you look at what it is or where around it is, all of that was reported initially in 2015.
That only happened in 2016. You haven't taken any reports off me.
But
nobody's
you've been reported
yeah.
that and that incident there to do with Larry.
But nobody
you've reported it on four separate occasions. But they have because I've read all the previous reports. I've read the previous reports that relates to that.
Nobody's looked at any of these. Nobody's read any of these.
People have read
No, because I printed these off after the police came and they took some other stuff. They took away all the stuff about him forging stuff. But they said to me, we need some of the stuff on the attack, can you print that off? So I did, and this is it, and nobody's read these at all. Nobody's read these.
People have seen that.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't.
All the police
reports
have said that
well, somebody's lied them. Somebody's lied them.
More than one officer's written about it.
I'll tell you what, Dave, has anybody read these?
Not that I know of.
Nobody's read them. And where's that other stuff? Because I've actually currently got a complaint in with the IPCC.
Okay.
And it's ongoing and being updated all the time. And I've already informed them about this.
The last officer who comes said, look, so if he does one more, let us know.
The problem is when I've read what you've phoned up and you've initially said about Lawrence, so I've gone to see, to look at previous incidents, because that's what we do. When we get a report of things, we look at previous incidents that have been
I've done 3 welfare checks, and so 2 referrals.
Sorry about that, guys. I let it run over a couple of minutes.
Okay, so did it, where it went through?
It went through the station fine. Yeah, at least I was listening to it via the station on another computer, so it went through fine. So everybody heard it. So it was out. I gotta say, after listening to it, I'm beginning to think more and more I'm right. I'm thinking she's been flipped. I think she's just become a Millab agent. I think they've turned her. Because everything she said is just ludicrous. And then you're going to call the cops and you're going to argue with the cop after you bring the cop out. I mean, see, here in America, they take you to jail for that kind of crap. They can send out a false police report and take your butt to jail for that.
But the thing is it's not only that, because there's another clip, and I want to get into this one, so we won't play that one. But there was another clip from Allison where she reported Larry as well and made a report, and they told her, that there wasn't anything basically they could do either, that it wasn't directed towards her. They haven't physically done anything, to anybody.
Let me get this straight here. So they both made police reports. They told the cops about all his stuff, from being, everything you could think of, from selling memorabilia to everything else. And the cops basically said what?
Well,
that there was nothing. It wasn't a crime.
If I can come in there, because
come on in here, Gary.
I listened to that show a few days ago, and actually made some notes, including some direct quotes.
Cool.
And I think they're very telling. I mean, I think it was misguided for her, in all honesty.
I think she was used.
Used or misguided.
I mean, we both know.
Shouldn't have put that out. I don't.
Yeah.
think.
Well, why would you do this? I mean, just pretty much ends any credibility you have whatsoever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not a good move from her part, but I don't think she can. When she's wound up, I don't think she can see the bigger picture.
Right.
But for example, what you listen in all of that is that literally from the moment the police officer walks in, she has been essentially harangued and harassed at everything she says. For example, the police officer about the allegations, and she actually says that she's made 4 complaints over the years, and that all of them have never been dealt with by the police properly.
Oh,
and the policewoman actually says, where does it say that they've got medical notes, which she kept bringing up? They're referring to her medical notes. You've reported that on 4 occasions up to 2015 regarding Larry Warren. I've read all the police reports, says the police officer, and there's no evidence. There's not enough evidence. But that's not good enough. And she just keeps coming back, and she'll say things like, this is a direct quote, this is about Larry Warren and a military event, and I think it's the military testing, selling books for 35 years. Turns out not even there. I'm going to put your windpipe through your throat. Well, let me talk about that quote. It was a silly, stupid thing for Larry Warren to say, and he said it about 18 months ago over what was turned out to be a non-appearance at a Scottish paranormal conference, of which I attended. But the context in which that was said is not actually what he said. He was supposed to speak. Then basically, I believe that Sasha Christie did organise and complain to the university people, and he was not allowed to speak. She basically got him stopped. She will deny that, but I believe that to be the case. But anyway, at that point, Larry was having some interaction with the organisers, and at one point he said, because his family were going, his ex-wife and his son were going to the event, he said, in this context, he basically said, if anybody goes for my family, I will jump up and rip the throat out of them, something, windpipe out of them, which is not a great choice of words, but I would argue that if anybody was to attack your family, which is what he's referring to, most people would defend their family and stand in and take some physical action. And that's what he was saying. And when that was actually quoted back to Alison Dunlop, who is the person putting that show out, she basically, we've got screen grabs of this, where she says, yeah, Larry, she took it as a joke, not a very good joke, but she did not take it as this death threat that then has been blown out of all proportion as to being, oh, he's wanting people dead.
You know, Gary, she should never talk about death threats. She's threatened to kill me at least 5 times. I mean, come on.
Well, but I mean, in relation to this like obsessive period with Larry Warren, you're not going to take a statement from me. No, I'm not, says the police officer. It doesn't constitute harassment. Where is the physical threats to you? There's nothing direct to you. People are passing you screen grabs. There's nothing direct to you. And she just keeps coming back. And the police officer, there is no direct threat of violence. Everything is coming from a third party. There's no immediacy of violence. And then she'll say slander becomes libel. And then she starts to proceed to tell the police officer's job. Almost shouting at her at the time. And she says, you're not listening to me. You're not taking you're going to be in my complaint too. And then there's the door sounded, the policewoman's gone. And then she actually swears on air without realising that the tape is running, but puts it out on this show and says, effing rude bitch, meaning the police officer as she's gone out the door. Now, is that not an own goal? What does that say about this person? And I think that segment of the police officer being harangued, I know from my 24 years experience as a police officer that many of my colleagues would have stopped her at 5 minutes in and said, if you carry on like that, you will be arrested for your behaviour. Right. And the woman, the policewoman, I thought did very, very well in extreme circumstances to avoid that. She tried to placate her at every which way, but no, it was a onslaught on the policewoman. And the woman was just saying, look, I've read all the files. You haven't read the files. I have read all the files. No, you haven't read. It was almost comical if it was not obsessive to the point of being sick, in my opinion.
Hey guys, check out. Make sure everybody's got their speakers open. I'm hearing just a little bit, real low, but I'm hearing y'all twice for some reason. So y'all just check and make sure. I don't want to get no weird feedback going on. It's a good archive, so I'm just saying check it. But no, I agree with you. I mean, you got to wonder what happened here. I mean, I think I'm going to go with the flip because after listening to this clip and some of the other stuff I've heard recently, and then listening to you talk there, I'm thinking something snapped. Something just.
It certainly isn't normal.
No, it's not. It's too much.
It's too extreme.
It's just too much. It is. It's too much, too fast.
Well, and something else, guys, is that when we look at this, we have to also think, first of all, this officer was coming out on and taking a report on a completely different person, not even Larry.
Absolutely.
It was somebody else. So it went from this guy gave me death threats. Well, who is he? Oh, he's a follower and friend of Larry Warren. And then eventually we get to it's all about Larry and wanting to have him arrested. And, the officer keeps pointing out that, I'm not here about the cases with Larry Warren. I'm here for this other guy. And, this isn't working. But for her to, again, the craziness, saying that she believed that, this was a military, hoax, that Rendlesham Forest, wasn't even real and it hadn't happened. And I mean, how, it was just all over the place. And then what really killed me is when she said when it wouldn't work as, a criminal offense. And then she said slander. And the lady said, well, that's a civil case. You'd have to, do that civilly.
Civil case. Yeah.
Right. So when that didn't work, then she said, well, how about a hate crime? Because they're hating on me. Yeah. And they were like, that's not what a hate crime is. She literally says, guys, it's a hate crime because they're hating on me. Okay, they're, and then on top of it, they say, okay, well, that's not what that is. And so then she says, well, they're hating on me and I've got a disability. And then, well, what's your disability? Well, she says that her mental health was fine earlier, but then she says, well, I was, committed into a psychiatric hospital for a hormonal imbalance.
In 2002.
Yeah. Right. And so and then the lady says, the officer says, oh, so you want to use that? And so they can turn around and say that maybe you need to, we need to look at your mental and give you a mental evaluation. And then that just sent her overboard even more, but for the listeners out there, listening to this, and I'm going to, when we get out of the show, I'm going to attach the link to the show. Normally, I wouldn't want to give anybody else's show extra, views or listens, but I'm happy to do it this time because this was absolutely so ridiculous that, their whole show was about all of this proof that they had. And we've seen over and over and over, Sasha has said that on her posts and on, different things that she has said, she always claims that every time Larry says something or something happens, that she's discussing it with the detectives and he's under this investigation and this big thing is going on. But yet she blew her own cover and her own lied and exposed herself when she said that they have absolutely paid her no attention because, as she says, it's two old friends arguing online back and forth. And I thought that the advice from the officer was very smart, is you just block them, tell people to stop sending you this stuff, and you'll never know what's going on, and eventually it will fade away. But the crazy part is she does exactly the same thing. She goes out and writes her blogs and she tries to dig up, what she thinks is dirt on people and all that kind of stuff to put it out there. So should we run to the police and make a police report every time because, oh my gosh, she's harassing me and she's saying my name all over a radio show? And I mean, come on, really? If you can't take it, don't dish it out. Because look, Larry, I definitely can just see, Larry's not going to put up with a whole lot. He lets his mouth get, make his foot put in his mouth every once in a while. But he says what he wants to say. And that's the right that people have. We don't have to agree. We don't have to like each other. But as long as we're not saying, oh, you're actor, I'm going to come and I'm going to kill you, and tag you in it and make sure it's pretty hard online to convict somebody for stating how they feel unless they actually go out and follow up, and which is exactly what they told both Allison and Sasha, was that, they both said, well, what's it going to take? And pretty much was, well, if he follows through, and if he comes and he attacks you, something online, it's a whole nother thing. I mean, what are you afraid of? Like your address is out there, but nobody's come to your house. Nobody's done anything to you.
I think one thing that should be pointed out, though, is whilst there's no way I'm going to forgive Larry for some of the silly things he says and some of the outbursts he says from time to time, because they're foolish. That said, if you'd been on the end of this horrendous harassment, which I would say it is harassment to him, and this campaign for the last 18 months to 2 years, I think even the most sanest person would have an outburst now and again, because it isn't nice. And most people have got a limit at which they can be reached, which they'll snap and bite back sometimes.
I 100% agree.
It's very easy for casual observers to say, oh, this is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. But if you're on the end of it, it's right. Not very nice to wake up every day and people are slagging you off and whatever. And he has had a horrendous abuse, far worse than what I'm getting. And I think he's just an ordinary guy. He's not somebody who's like me, does radio shows and does a magazine and whatever. He's just an ordinary guy. He's not a ufologist who just happened to get caught up in something weird, and then suddenly he's been bombarded and history is trying to be rewritten about him by this group of self-appointed judges who have condemned him as a liar, con man and a fraud, which, if you talk in those terms, con man and fraud, that implies he has been convicted or at least cautioned by the police, i.e. guilty of some criminal offence. Well, that's not happened. So how can you say it? It is absolutely wrong. If I was to say to Joe, you're a paedophile, and start telling, then that would be absolutely wrong. Because, if you're doing it on radio shows and things like that, it's absolutely horrendous without any evidence to back it up, i.e. police evidence. And they haven't got any of that. And that radio show, without her realising it, has actually done a great harm to her, because it shows that the police, yes, she's reported it loads of times, 4 times about Larry, and each time there's not enough evidence. So that just shows you why the police are doing nothing, that there is no evidence. And
it also shows that there's no investigation on him.
There is no investigation, but there is a serious point to this. If you listen to Colonel Holt, he will still talk. There's an investigation ongoing. There is no investigation. And a lot of this is from 18 months ago. So why does somebody like him, who has got great rank and great experience, allow himself to be used by this woman who was the source for why Holt really went after Larry in the last 2 years, and was the reason why I ended up ceasing my 7-year collaboration period with Holt, because I realised that his source eventually was Sasha Christie, and she actually admits that in the research that I've done. In a screen grab, she says, "Oh, thanks for getting the book, The Holt Perspective. My role was as the researcher on Larry Warren." And it's confirmed, and that's not a good source.
No, it's not. But think about it. So she's driving this to first. I know she was talking with Burroughs and them a while back, and so what she's basically done here is tried to drive this all. She got into it with Holt. She got into it with Larry. She's feeding Holt information, obviously bad information. She's getting into it, Larry. She's playing both sides against the middle, which now she's getting squashed for doing it. But she was playing both sides against the middle. I'm really thinking, she some kind of plan, something happened, because she was really trying to bring Rendlesham to a screaming halt. Maybe it's because it's the anniversary coming up, but I'm thinking, it's a shame. I'm not in UK because I'd give her a call and say, "Look, Sasha, why don't you let me put you on to see if there's something else here?" I said, because really it sounds like you were one of them mill labs that have been taken and been reprogrammed for their use, and it's what it sounds like. And it might not be. It might just be she's just went plumb ass shit knocker crazy. For no reason. I mean, it does happen, not often, but it does happen. But there just seems to be something underlying here. And if it wasn't so much stuff being in Rendlesham, and now she's calling it a false flag, I would just think that this was just some crazy hormone imbalance, like she was saying in the thing, or something else. But that's not what this sounds like. This sounds like something a little bit more sinister. Is she a victim? Maybe not. To whoever just sent that text to me, no, she could be a willing participant. We just don't know. But I'm beginning to think there's a little bit more here because it's just too much hate. I mean, it's just too much. And why everybody? Your wife, friends. I mean, why everybody? Why risk your career? I mean, she had a pretty solid ufology career. She worked with some of the good organizations. She was friends with a lot of ufologists. Now, because of this one
she's
clip,
pretty much fallen out with everybody.
Yeah, well, with this clip, she's out.
Yeah,
with this clip, she's out now. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, with this clip, she's out. I mean, nobody's going to touch her. Even some of her closest friends like Pete and him, I think, are going to just stay away from her because this is dangerous.
Well, what it shows, and I know from having talked to some researchers that she can be very affable, very charming, and you don't expect to see the flip side. Well, that clip shows the flip side that they've never seen, and I suspect that the likes of Holt, I suspect the likes of John Hanson, the publisher of the Holt Perspective, I suspect that the Peter Robbins and other researchers that she's approached and been very charming to will be absolutely horrified if they heard that clip, because that's the real Sasha, the real flip side. That
they're going to hear it now because it's going to get out there. And I'm going to invite Holt on. I'm going to give him a shot. I said, look, Holt, would you like to come on? And if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. You can come on and talk about Rendlesham. But I would really like to get some of this settled down some because, you know, and I'm going to tell Holt, I think this is a deliberate ploy to try to destroy Rendlesham's credibility. He has been played. And I'm going to tell him, and he's not the only one. Barrows has been played too. Penniston's been played, and in some ways Larry's being played. But right now Larry's being played hard. So I think that as people who do radio and host, and even people being involved in the field, that there needs to be a little intervention here. So it's time to just talk to some of these people and say, look, this is what's going on. You don't have to take us by our words. You can hear it come out of our own mouth. This is what's happening here.
Let me just give you a quote that is pertinent here, because nothing would be better if Colonel Holt realised that this source of all the information that he's being given about Larry Warren was Sasha Christie. We knows that, and I've got confirmation, that written confirmation from his side too, and that comes from the fact that when the producer of the upcoming Capel Green film sent him an email saying would he like to take part in the documentary, because it's not just about Larry Warren, it's about all of the Rendlesham story. He came back and said, well, no, I don't want to, basically, but have you spoken to Sasha Christie? Well, if that doesn't tell you who his source was, I don't know what is. So you've got that confirmation both ways. She says it one way and he said it in that. Now, I said before the Holt Perspective, his book came out, published by John Hanson, who has done some great research with his Haunted Skies books, he sent me an email, and it was a kind of loaded email. It was kind of threatening. Basically said, well, I've got your correspondence with me, because we had this 7-year correspondence over a film script. And I went, okay. But it kind of was like a veiled threat. Well, I've got your emails if you talk about emails. Now, I don't particularly want to talk about email because I do try to think that they are private. But what it basically was saying, I said in my response was, Colonel, the only reason we have fallen out is because of Larry Warren, i.e. you've slandered him without producing the evidence. And I said to him in this email, I believe the source that you have got for this material is fundamentally flawed. I was very careful, and I think it is. And he needs to realise that this is not the nice, charming interview research that he thought, and he is being given duff information of which to go on the attack and try to destroy Larry Warren, which there are any number of reasons why he wants to do that anyway, but he has got a source that is feeding him bad information.
Let me see who I can track down with his phone number, and I'm going to give him a call and see if we can't get him to come talk, because really and truly, he needs to get his 15 in here anyway, because there's a lot going on here, and he needs to understand that, you know, Sasha is just not a valuable source of information, unfortunately. He needs to understand that this is going beyond information. This is going on an attack on Rendlesham, and he's feeding right into it. I mean, he's helping destroy Rendlesham because, you know, at this point, and I hate to say it this way, if any of the four main players turn out to be a liar, the case is done. It's over with. It's done. It doesn't matter which one it is. If you know, you can right now you can hem and haw around with Burroughs and Pennison talking about time travel, Hall talking about this, and Larry talking about that. That's fine. People can kind of live on the edge there. But if one of them is proved to be an outright liar, it's pretty much done. The case is done. It's gone too long now for something like that to happen. If it does, it would be like saying we found out that Barney Hill faked his abductions. I
think in some ways I'd have to disagree with you a little, because it's maybe too simplistic to say that. But what, from my research with other people who are involved in periphery, some of these, not the main four that you're talking about, but there are literally any number of 40, 50 people out there, military people, who could come out if the circumstances were nicer for them to come out. But a lot of them that I've talked to privately just think, well, this is horrendous, and they're just slagging each other off. Yeah. And it is horrendous, and it doesn't encourage anybody to come out. But suffice to say, from my research, there's a lot of good people out there. And what you have to understand is that there's no doubt John Burroughs was involved in some of the incidents. There's no doubt Jim Penniston was involved in some of the incidents. There's no doubt Colonel Holt played a big part in the incidents. But there were many more people. And because of the nature of what we're dealing with, i.e. something profound, UFO related, not a lighthouse, I might add, and many, many different kind of incidents over a number of days, perceptions will be extremely odd, because we're dealing with something that's extremely odd. And so perfect recall is not going to be great, especially when we're trying to rewrite history 37 years on. But what is absolutely clear to me is that all of the people who are at the top, who have come out, the Holt, Pennison, Burroughs, etc., they need to actually take a step back and say, look, we have to stop this name calling. We have got to stop this trying to say you were there, you did this, you did that. There's one thing trying to clarify, but there's another thing trying to rewrite history, and there's too much of rewriting history being done by prominent people, and not to the benefit of all the other witnesses who may well want to come out if the circumstances were better.
Yeah, and that's the point I was making. I mean, see, if you start proving them as liars, nobody's going to want to come out. They're going to want to stay away. They don't want to get attacked.
But what I'm saying is I don't think it's lies per se, because it's so weird. And I think most of the memories are actually scrambled to quite a degree that you're never going to get I went to the shop and I bought this. It can't be like that.
Let me get hold of them. It'll be exactly like that. I learned something a long time ago. No, I learned something a long time ago. If the memories are there, I will get them out of their heads. It's something I've been doing for 35 years. I'm really good at it.
And I agree. You can get those memories out if it's set up in the right way.
If it is. And it takes time, it takes effort. And some people it's going to be harder, some people it's going to be easier.
Absolutely.
And somebody asked me the other day about if I regress Larry, would I worry about him being rehearsed because he's talked about it so much. I said I wouldn't even talk about that. I said I'd go into a whole different mood with Larry. I said I'm looking for information in his head that's not public.
Absolutely, and you wouldn't do it on air. You need to do it privately. You need to get them relaxed.
Because you don't know what else is going to come out.
You need to get them to concentrate, and you can't do that live on a radio show.
And you just never know what's going to come out in these things. You want to be careful with this. This is people's lives you're messing with here.
Absolutely.
So,
all right. Well, we got a question from Frank it's coming from Twitter, and he's asking that in the memorabilia, has there been any charges that have been pressed with anybody who bought the fake memorabilia? Now, you can chime in too, Gary, because I know you know about this too. But even from, if you were listening to the tape, even from what Sasha Christie says, if there is no victim, she claims that, she knows all these people who bought the, the fake memorabilia and all of that. If that's the
Why
case,
didn't you tell the cop that?
There you go. If that's the case, if you've got somebody who said, "Oh, I have this and it's fake," and you've got all these people that are confirming that this is fake stuff, all you have to do is bring that memorabilia to the police department, say I brought, or to the federal. I forgot what the NTS
may I come in there, because when I was researching her behaviour over this, since she flipped, as it were, there are some photographs on her own blog page where she is wearing a John Lennon jacket or something like that, a Jimi Hendrix jacket. Some memorabilia had come back from an auction house, and she's parading in it in the garden. And she's saying, and she's smiling and whatever. Well, if she really thought that this was forged goods, shouldn't she have contacted the police? This is why he was there with her. You know, they could have recovered the gear and they would have the evidence to support her. But that never happened. So you've got to ask the question, well, did she know? Or if she didn't, then she was accepting it as genuine. So how come there's now this supposed evidence of all this memorabilia? Well, from what I know, he has never been arrested, charged or convicted for any memorabilia type offence. And if you listen carefully to the police officer, they're saying there's no evidence of any of this. You're making allegations, but there's no evidence. And this is what I try to say. They say, oh, it's proven. At the start of this show, they go, oh, and the proven lies by Larry Warren. Well, let's talk about lies briefly. I don't know of anybody in the whole world who has never lied at any time in their life. Nobody's that white. You know, nobody is that virginal about lying. Everybody can lie at times. It is just a human part of the condition. I'm not saying it's good to lie, but for people to say, you know, everything he does is a liar, this, that, and the other, it's just so extreme and so nonsensical. It's obsessive.
It is a bit obsessive, but you know, I'm glad you brought it up, because one of the very first things her and her little crony group started doing, you're not looking at evidence. I'm like, you're not giving me any evidence. I said, hearsay is not evidence. I said, unless British courts are much different than American courts, hearsay is not evidence. It's speculation, whatever you want to call it. It's not evidence.
Hearsay is evidence of a third person when the actual person is not there. Yeah. So it's somebody spreading a story.
But I'm glad about this, because remember, I've been bitching for a couple of months now. Just show me the evidence, give me the video, give me something, give me some audio, you know, give me the police report. So at least she gave me the police report.
Look,
I don't know why she did, but she did.
Let's do it sensibly with regards to the memorabilia. If there were loads of people out there, I think he's been doing this for 20 odd years with the auction houses. If there were this long line of people who'd been ripped off by this man, and if, for example, I'd been ripped off by this man, I would be going to the police and say, this guy's ripped me off for 10 grand.
Right, but you don't have somebody else do it for you.
But nobody's done that. Nobody, not one person has done that. So that shows you that he's not this memorabilia con man.
And yet people like Nick Pope.
But listen, people like Nick Pope, who should know better, has joined on the Holt campaign to discredit Larry Warren, and he's attacking me, saying Warren is a liar, a con man, and a fraud. And I'm saying, no, Nick, that is not the case, and you should know better.
That's the pot calling the kettle black there, buddy.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. Oh, Nick, yeah, I mean, you know, oh, come on, Poke, you should know better, dude. We know about everything coming out of your mouth was BS. Oh, Lord.
That's what's happening.
I got him with him a couple times. I was doing an interview with him one time. He's telling me all this stuff. I said, you know what, dude? And I said, I've been affiliated with the government a long time, and no government is that sloppy. I said, if the British were that sloppy, then they would have lost to the Germans, because every secret they had would have been the Nazis. I mean, come on. So it's just ridiculous. You know, I was just telling Christina this today. I've been staying away from the field, because anytime I get in the field too deep, I can start getting aggravated with everybody, because there's just so much lies, so much bullshit. And here you got 4 people, Larry, Holt, and Pennison and Burroughs, that could really set this case down and really put this in a direction where when we're all dead and gone, it would be a good, solid case. But no, they're going to start fighting one. They're going to bleed some crazy woman and destroy half this case because of what? Ignorance?
It's very damaging for the case, because it's not how it should be, and it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't, and it's ridiculous that it is this way, and it's ridiculous. But you know, this is what's so sad about this. If Sasha was somebody with money or wealth or something, this would have already stopped because a lien would have been put on them to stop, and they wouldn't want to lose any money. But when you have nothing to lose, nobody cares, and the police aren't going to get involved because they're looking at her like, well, she's a UFO nut.
Absolutely, they're not interested in UFOs.
They're not interested, and nobody else is, and nobody's going to spend the money to get it all taken down. You know, and I was talking. Matter of fact, I talked to a lawyer friend of mine actually this morning. I was asking about this stuff, and he said, "Oh, I can get it all taken down for you, Jerry. How much money you want to spend?" I'm like, "What?"
Right.
I'm like,
right.
It's not worth it. It's just not.
Right. It's not, and it's so hard to prove anything. So basically, you know, you just keep going back and forth and trashing each other online until it, you know, it just gets old and people stop, you know, being interested in it. But the interesting thing though was like what Gary was saying with the memorabilia. You know, first of all, like she didn't personally buy any memorabilia and get ripped off anything. So even if there were people out there that she knew, like who is she? You know, like she's like the victim advocate of the world. Because nobody's complaining.
Nobody's complaining. There are no complainants.
Yeah,
she's making this up just like she has with everything else. I mean, when you see that she goes through like 8 different scenarios of why this police officer needs to arrest Larry Warren, which again, that wasn't even what the call was for.
She was there.
Yeah. Sasha, if you're listening tonight or when you listen to this, because I know you're going to.
Oh, we know she will.
Sasha, call me. You've been used, boo. You've been manipulated, probably mill-labbed. Probably one of your cases, it was a handoff case. ET probably gave you back to the whatever they call the French police over there, and they took you, mill-labbed you, and now you're just turning against everybody you've ever even worked with.
I'm not even going to let you say that because that'll probably be the new spin story that you know she has. What I think it is, what I personally think it is the fact that she says that she's not a professional researcher, which is very true based on just her quote unquote evidence and facts. Okay. Yeah. She has exposed herself. And she even says in the interview that all the stuff she found out about Larry, she says, I Googled him. All you got to do is Google people. And I'm like, well, dummy, that's what got you in trouble with me. Because you thought you had all of this great evidence that you put out there. That's not research. That's just looking up information that other people's opinions and putting it out there. That's no facts. What I want to see when somebody says, I've got evidence, I got no facts, I want to see something from the police department saying that there's an open investigation. I want to see somebody being arrested. And I've always said this, and I'll say it on every show that I do about this. If for some reason Larry Warren ever gets arrested for peddling, this merchandise and it's not legit, I will be the first one to do a show on it.
Oh, yeah, we will be.
Along with
and that would
be a highly rated show too.
And that would be fine. But I would still draw a distinction. What has nothing to do with
Rendlesham Forest, yeah. And that was the whole
thing. That's the other thing. We said that from day one. The day all this started, I said, no.
That's why I didn't care about that stuff that they were wanting to tell me and send me, because when they couldn't convince me about the Rendlesham Forest stuff, then it went to the whole memorabilia and he said this and he said that.
And that's another thing that happened. She couldn't really tack Rendlesham Forest. I mean, come on, she's put her stamp on Rendlesham Forest for, Jesus, I don't know, 17 years, 15 years. Yes. I don't know. It's been a long damn time.
Yes, Joe, but how does she now say that this is some false flag military psyop?
She's gone wackadoodle.
I mean, like that should tell you something. When you digress to a point where you are just out of excuses of what to tell this officer to try to convince him, now you're going to throw that, now that made her sound like a nutcase. I hate to say, like that was like, oh boy, yep.
Clip made her sound like a nutcase.
She's going to walk out any moment.
I got to say, that cop was far nicer about it than I would have been. I'd have been like, excuse me, did you just call me out here? Because I'd be, you know what? Put your hands behind your back. We're going for a ride.
Officers in the UK would have arrested her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd have arrested her. I'd have been like, no,
the ones that Allison Young spoke to, they had said, well, really, this is, first of all, that's something that was done over Facebook, and Facebook won't release the the data information, unless it's, violates their standards.
Give a good about
And well, no, the thing is that's what they're saying. Facebook said they looked at it, they didn't find it offensive, and they didn't take it down, and so there was nothing. And so if even Facebook says, like, we don't take that as harassment and valid, credible threats to your life, how the hell is the police department going to take it serious? Nobody took it serious because it was her and Allison taking things that were said online. Like I could say the same thing. I could say, oh, if people, I guess people have to read her blog first, because if I was going to say, I guess I could get hate mail from it, but I haven't got anything.
Well,
but
we got to. Well, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I was going to say, even if they did, it's like, again, really, are you seriously that afraid? No, she's not afraid. Nothing has happened to her in all these years. It is just people going back and forth, talking shit to each other. And you can't be dishing out, it out to people. And then when you get it back, then you're going to cry foul and say, oh, I'm so scared, and make stuff up. And especially, like, I know people, I've had haters that have gone to the extent that they do not have a problem lying to the police in order to try to get somebody in trouble. And, so this could be very, very, hurtful to Larry if they were to find somebody who would believe this. I mean, thankfully it won't. And now having this, Larry will forever be protected when she makes a claim, because that's all he has to do is play this to them, and they're going to see that all of the other ones have been falsified and faked, and nobody's going to take her serious. Nobody.
Absolutely.
As they shouldn't.
They
shouldn't take it serious.
But what you said earlier about trying to get hold of Holt and realizing and putting it to him that his source was fundamentally flawed, as I've said all along, it would be good, because I don't think he will listen for one moment, and because he thinks that Sasha is a brilliant researcher, and all I would say is listen to that clip, and I think
see that, and that's the difference, though. Sasha worked for me for a long time, so I can discuss her research with Holt. Say, look, Holt, I actually know Sasha better than you do. I understand her research better than you do, and I can tell you what's credible and what's not. And so that unless he just wants to play ignorant, and of course, like I told Pennison and Burroughs at the time, if you want to play ignorant, that's fine. I'll just go on the air and say, hey, look, I offered, you refused.
Well, the thing is that recording, that interview, that radio interview said it all. Like, there's anybody that listens to that.
I thought these were friends of hers. If I had friends like that, I would biatch slap them after this.
I don't think I would have, maybe if it was
why would a friend let you say this?
Right. If you said some crazy stuff and implicated yourself as a liar, Joe, like at the end of the live show, I would definitely be saying, yeah, we're not putting that archive up. That's
no, that thing's getting deleted.
Yourself look crazy. But the fact that I still don't really understand, it's crazy because she put it on her blog and everything as if, that was this wonderful radio show to prove their point. And I'm just like, did you listen to the same show that I listened to? Because the show that I listened to, that made you look really, really, really bad.
I think it's a massive own goal, to be honest.
It is.
She made a big mistake.
She made a big one. But, it's these hosts took advantage of it. That's how I look at it. I mean, at some point, if you're friends of her, you should have said no. Because if we were still friends and should have been on, I said, whoa, Sasha, maybe we should reconsider this because, just you sound.
But here's the thing. Sasha is the leader of the group of 4, maybe group of 3, but all the other 3 have got roped in because
she's one of 3. Sorry.
Yeah, so Sasha has led that group and effectively recruited the other 3 to do her bidding as well. In various
and now that they've gotten into it with Larry personally, or Larry has said something back then. So now it's like they all have a reason to band together. And again, the craziness that they turned on James for, calling me a stinky whore. It's ridiculous. Because again, I've been called so much worse by the whole lot of them. But still, it was so professional for him to say it to Lynn, but if it was directed to me, like, oh, that's okay. Like that comment was all right. Like, seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, it's not just her, although she's the leader of the group without a shadow of a doubt. But but the four of them have been involved in the abuse, and you can tell by the tone of the radio show that they just cannot see how wrong and how strange they are acting. David Young, in particular, is writing to people left, right, and centre. Oh, you can't have him on the show. You can't have this. Really, really nasty behaviour. And yet he came in the last of the four. Doesn't really know much about anything about ufology, and he says that openly. But he's joined on their coattails. And I'm thinking, what are you doing, David? He used to be a subscriber, an attendee of the conferences. And then because I said, well, this is not right about Larry Warren, they flipped. 3 of the 4 were all supporters of the magazine. And then suddenly, because I supported Larry Warren, I'm a demon. I'm a liar. I'm a con man. Well, what kind of behaviour does that flips like that?
Well, but I don't even understand why it is you got to be haters when you just can't agree to disagree. I don't understand the need for the hate. I mean, okay, you don't like what we said. You don't like what we're doing. Don't. It's just ignorance, is what it is. This whole thing here. I mean, actually, I kind of feel sorry for her after this because I mean, either she's been turned or she's just flipped. Because after that, so you're gonna call the cops. Cops are telling you full of crap. Everybody's telling you full of crap. But yet you still think, usually when the world tells you you're wrong, most of the time you turn out to be wrong. Not always, but 99 and 9/10 of the time you turn out to be wrong.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is if you've got a few, other people like you behind you, patting you on the back and encouraging you along the way, it's very easy for them to all get sucked into this and, feel the victim. I mean, they only see the bad side of everybody else. Oh, we're talking about him on this show. Oh, poor them. Oh, Larry says something to him. Oh, somebody else has an opinion. Oh, Gary writes about something. So what? You write about us, on your blog. You want to talk about us on shows. What makes you any different? You can only be a victim if you're not interacting and people just continuously harass you. And again, if you block somebody, then you don't see anything that they do. So tell your friends to stop stirring the pot and sending you stuff. But in reality, that's what she loves. She loves to play the victim.
Absolutely. And that is the story behind her. She loves to play the victim and lure people in, and she can be very charming. Absolutely.
Well, we are running out of time, but I do want to say, thanks for tuning in.
Wait, before you take us out, you got any other clip you thought needed to be played tonight before we go? Because remember, we got an extra 10, 12 minutes because we started late, so.
Oh, yeah, hold on just a second. They're all pretty, they're all pretty long. I'll put the link up so people can go and listen to it in its entirety. But I think that we've, covered a lot that's been on there. People.
As advice, what would y'all all give? Greg, are you here? Anyway, whoever's here, if you could give Sasha a piece of advice, what would it be? Gary?
I think you've got to realize that you can't rewrite history just because you've taken a dislike to somebody.
Yeah, I have to. Chris? Greg? Greg fell asleep, but he's over there.
No, I'm just thinking, to give anybody some particular advice about what they write on the internet. I personally would not write something on the internet to somebody else that I wouldn't want published on the front of the New York Times.
Absolutely.
And that's about the best advice I think I can give anybody.
That's good advice right there. Because nothing's private. Nothing's private anymore, people. Nothing. So when you think that you're just talking to your friends and things like that, it's never that way. So, but Sasha, look, all you got to do is just let this go. Just let it go. Like, I don't, if you want to do it in the shadows, if you just want to just pursue this, this is fine. But I just don't know how much credibility you're going to have after this. I almost, one side of me, even though I get perturbed by her sometimes, one side, it feels really kind of sorry for her, because to obsess to this degree where you'll go to any lengths, you'll contact people, you'll try to turn people against you, try to get people taken out of events, you'll try to discredit people, you try to shut down people's magazines, you talk about people, you spread rumors, all of these different things has not helped her one bit.
Actually, it's hurting. It's killing her. I mean, she was before this started 18 months ago, whenever this started 2 years ago, she was a fairly respected researcher in the field. Now she's not. Now she's just like every other crazy person who says crazy, outrageous things and can't back them up. And after this clip, I just don't even know why she did the clip. I just don't get it. I'm still, see, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand the whole thing with the screaming, hating everybody and going crazy over Larry. And then now you're off the deep end, you're hating on everybody, and then you can just go put this clip out of you talking to the cop and the cop's telling you you're crazy. I mean, why would you even put it out?
Yes, and in her mind,
the deepest, darkest place you could have found.
Yeah, but in their mind, because like I saw on the show, the comments on their sides and their minds, they thought that it was a great show that put out a lot of evidence, and a lot of evidence, all right, but not towards Larry. A lot of evidence showing that they're full of shit. There's no investigation. There's no charges. There's no victims that are willing to come forward and say that, they were sold, fraudulent memorabilia. There is nothing. All of the things that they said is proof. And like I said, I haven't been involved in this that long, but just since I've been involved, I've seen multiple posts, where they're saying, oh, yes, I just spoke to the detective again. And this evidence is going over to the case. And, I'm like, really, like nobody that could get me any information could verify that there was any pending investigation, current investigation.
There is no investigation.
Exactly. And so now we know, but who would have thought that the person who created the lie would be the person to tell on themselves and expose their own lie?
That's the new world today. I see a lot of that now. Somebody starts a lie, lies, gets other people to help them lie, gets 8 or 9 people to back up their lie, and then it turns out to be a lie instead of a truth. It just seems to be a lot that goes on these days. But I know we're going to get out of here in a few minutes. Gary, anything you need to plug before we get? Magazines, books?
I'm the editor of UFO Truth magazine. It's a 96-page e-zine, ufotruthmagazine.co.uk. It features many of the best researchers in the world, people like Stanton Friedman, Nick Redfern, Mary Rodwell, A.J. Javard, Richard Dolan, Peter Robbins have all written for the magazine. Many of them write on a regular basis. It tries to reach as many English-speaking people around the world. It goes out to many countries. And one of the things, it's just reminded me, because when they attack the magazine and say that, in fact, only in the last week, they have tried a different tactic by getting some of their cohorts and friends to post negative reviews onto the magazine Facebook page, and it's all about Larry Warren, or it's all about me because I'm protecting Larry Warren, and they realise that it's hard to get these removed if it's your page, because it's a product, so people can put it unbiased, supposedly. But they've done that, and what you've got to realise is this is just never going to work, that the vast majority of people can see through that, and it's just a waste of time, because but it's also insulting to the likes of Stanton Friedman, who writes a regular column, Nick Redfern, who writes a regular column, because they're slagging off the magazine as if it's rubbish, and it's only rubbish because I support Larry Warren and no other reason. Everything else, it's just a collection of stories. Well, isn't that all magazines? A collection of stories.
All good magazines anyway.
Absolutely. So indirectly they're attacking a lot of very famous people within the field, and that's wrong, because they do great work, and it's just because I have supported Larry Warren and saying there is no evidence as far as I can see.
And see, that's what's happened now. A lot more people are coming out. Larry's doing more shows. More people are supporting him because, I didn't even know any of this was going on. And then when I heard about it, I was like, what? And then, of course, after the show attacks, and I'm like, what the hell?
But it's like there's a world war going on, and you think, whoa, where did this come from?
Yeah, well, they were
apparently I was ignorant to the whole damn thing.
Well,
I mean,
right,
I was
and
just
since that was the whole thing, because when I had, Larry on the show, Sasha got so upset, and the first thing that she told me was that, my show was fake, the numbers were fake, and that she was going to have me removed from the network. I said, well, good luck. And she's like, oh, you have no idea. Joe Montaldo is one of my good friends. You will no longer be on that network. And I was like, well, go for it then, and so again, when that didn't work, then she turns on Joe too. So go figure.
Yeah, because basically you've got a different opinion, and because it's not supporting her account, she has to go on the attack, which is very, very weird.
It is. Well, yeah. And if they would have showed me anything, and I told them a dozen times, just show me anything, any kind of real evidence, because all these people kept writing to me with this bullshit.
And she kept trying to say initially, when that show was first broadcast, that you'd told her that Larry had failed the voice stress analysis.
Oh, indeed.
Right.
And fortunately for me, that's all public on radio and on archives.
I know, but I mean, but for her to, in her own mind, try to say...
She was hoping I'd pick it up and back her up. Because, but then you're asking a friend to lie for you on a public lie that? Well, you wouldn't, because it's a public, and it's been discussed many times on here. I can't. It would be like, no, it's not something I could change. I mean, it's out there. It's been out there a long time, and I'm gonna stand by it, and hopefully I'll get to do another one on him, because I got to be honest with you. Regardless what Larry is in between, we all got our issues and problems in life.
Absolutely.
Regardless what he is, because I know he can be a real pain in the ass. In the end, I think there's something there, and I want to know what it is.
Absolutely, and that's
and I think there's. Yeah, and I think there's something more there than what we're getting, and I'd personally like to know what it is. And the same thing with Holden. I would just, none of them have spent any time with a researcher like me. They really haven't. They deal with the MUFON people and other organizations, but I've been doing this a really long time, and it's one of the things we pride ourselves on is getting information out of people's heads, whether we got to use hypnosis or sometimes just through chat or quite a few other ways. One way that works really good, especially on my UK friends, because it's the wee hours in the morning for poor Gary over there. I like to call them like 2 in the morning. Let's chat. Let's just chat, and I'll start using that monotone voice. And the next thing they're telling me their Social Security numbers, their bank account numbers, you name it. They're telling me about it.
There you go. That's going to be the next part of Sasha's blog tomorrow. That you're hypnotizing people and taking all their information.
By the way, did like she go Scottish on us? Because part of that archive sounds like she had rocks in her mouth. I'm like, wait, did she change? What's going on here?
I don't know. See, I've never spoken to her, so I wouldn't know one way or another. Like I said, I only know her by being, called the C word every time, she gets
again, Sasha, I really
frustrated.
wish you would contact me and we could talk about this. I really would. We don't have to talk about it on air, and that's what Skype's for. Yes, I will record it, because right now I'm not feeling real trusting with you, but.
Well, look, I will give Sasha an invite to come on my show. Like, I will still give an open platform. I have said this over and over. They had to go do a radio show themselves. I don't know why. I was more than, happy to do one on my show, and it is still open. If you want to come in.
The last one we did, what, like 15,000 just an archive. Yeah. So, come listen. Look, I'm not hating. I want to know, because I feel like just something else. I want to know what it is that drove you over the edge, and I'm not buying the memorability bullshit. And now I don't even think that's what it is. I don't think it had anything to do. I think that was just the easiest way to try to hang him, because you couldn't get him on Rendlesham because you spent half your life backing the guy, and basically telling every ufology myself included, that he was a good guy. Because I would have never got on my show without Sasha. I'm not even gonna lie about it. I didn't know who the hell he was.
Oh, I just want to ask her what the hell she was thinking of when she put up those clips for the interview. That's what I really want to know.
And well, I'm thinking there's something snapped to you, so I'd really like to talk to her about it, because I think something's, I'm not saying you're psycho crazy. I just, maybe, like I said, maybe they got you, but you've been saying, and we've talked about that group in the UK, that 101 abduction, we like to call it, that are what we would consider not friendly abductions. So I don't know. Contact me. I'd like to talk to you about it. I would really like to see this worked out, because, regardless of what you think of Larry and what you think about the memorability, as well as I do, Rendlesham happened. And you've talked with Larry and spent enough time with Larry to know that there's some truth in what he's telling you. So what I'm saying is, if you just can't handle it, just stop. Go on.
It definitely wasn't a psyop.
There's something, you know, something's just messed up here, and just try to get away from it. He's moving on from it. Peter's moving on from it. Everybody else is moving on from it. You know, I don't want to see you lose it, chick. Too many people in ufology go, you know what I've said, and I know you've heard me say this before, Sasha. All ufologists sometimes go wacky crazy, and you ain't exactly spring chicken anymore. You're my age, so, you know, that happens sometimes. I don't want to see you go that way. Really and truly, it happens a lot in ufology, to be honest with you, man. I'm out of them.
I'm staying out of that one because I'm probably going to get the blame for all this anyway. So,
you know, ufology's on my list right now, and they hate being on my list because I have no qualms of tearing it. I don't care how famous you are, who the hell you are. I will tear you a new one if I think you're telling me a bunch of bullshit. And lately, I think everything I've been watching has been a bunch of bullshit. So
we gotta go. So until something new happens, it's exciting. We probably will move on from this topic, but you never know because things happen on a weekly basis that you just never expect. So if we decide we just have to chime in again on something, well, we'll do that again. But until the next time, Gary, we'll hopefully have you on when Capel Green comes out, as well as Larry. And
that would be good.
We'll have a good talk.
And I think that would be good. And I think I can tell you this: I think there'll be a lot of new information in Capel.
Yes,
I bet.
And you might even see my smiling face in there saying hi. So. Anyway, I know we really do got to get out of here, guys. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank Gary, we love you, man. Anytime, baby. Anytime you need some press or a magazine, anything, just give us one of us a holler. And
make sure to check out his magazine too. I'll add the link in the promos.
Actually, you know what, Gary? Why don't you send me like a little 400 by 400 or 300 by 300 banner or something? And I'll put it on the United Public page with the other banners.
Yeah, I will. And what I will say, just as you go, is that for all of your listeners, if they email me at heseltinegary@hotmail.com, they can choose one of the 28 issues so far, and I will send it to them complimentary.
Guys, y'all better jump on that,
Mention
man.
us. Ding, 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 ding.
I'm telling you, y'all better jump on it. You get your freebies off there.
That's right.
I probably just created a lot of work for myself, but no,
that's good.
I'm happy to send them any one of the.
Be careful what you wish for, Gary.
Yes.
Y'all be sure to come check out Gregory Miller. He's on Voice of the People on both Mondays and
That's right.
I guess Tuesdays is like Voice of the People Light, huh, Greg? And Saturday is the real show. I wouldn't say it's the real show. I'm sorry.
You said the real show. Like the other one is fake, Greg.
Yeah, the big show. Well, no, I mean Saturday's pretty much politics. Now we do have some new shows coming on Saturdays. You know, Chip's there with his show, Be Kindness Beyond the Veil, and then I can't remember her name. I shouldn't announce her name until it's in about 2 Saturdays. She's going to be starting, I think. And anyway, y'all will meet her. That's more metaphysical stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been getting a lot of email about metaphysical. Actually, this is hard on me, people, because I get a lot of emails about metaphysical, but a lot of people on the network do not like it. So I get nasty posts about why you got this metaphysical person. It's a damn you do. But we got to be balanced. But anyway, we're getting out of here. Greg, say goodnight. Greg, good night. Greg, he's pregnant.
Hey, have a good night, everybody. Thanks for having me on the panel show.
You just listened in. What are you talking about?
Greg is like the new mascot or something. I don't know, man.
He's like Renee. Like, he just goes on and just hangs out. It's like,
this has just been intriguing because this is something where, like Joe, I was in a situation where I actually missed the invite to be on the program with Larry Warren, and then you get this atom bomb dropped on you with all this stuff that you had no idea what was going on. So,
we'll have to set up another date with Larry and bring you on, Greg. We'll set it up and make sure that you get the. I'll make sure you get that invite.
Yeah,
alrighty. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening tonight, and make sure to check out my show tomorrow night with Renee Chavez on Top Secret News, and again and then on Mondays for Paranormal Connections.
I'm sorry.
Good night. Out of here.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.